So starting your day in the morning with sunlight is actually helping your hormones. It's helping regulate your metabolism, your appetite, your energy, your mood, and then it also helps with your sleep later that night. Then as we move through the day, UVB will rise, and getting out in UVB, most of us know that's like when we start making vitamin D.
If you've been watching, you know that I take my ingredients very seriously, but there are 3 companies that I have found that I absolutely love. Check the description for discount codes.
Hello, welcome to my show. My name is Adrian. This is a series where I interview different people who've inspired me to be healthier. Today I have my friend Maili. She has a degree in holistic health and nutrition. She's graduated from the Emorex, the Maria and Craig Emmerich program in Keto, Carnivore, and PSMF. And she recently got her certificate from the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology in circadian health. Is that correct?
Yes, applied quantum biology, circadian health, it all kind of goes together.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk about this. But before we go into that, thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Could you tell us a little background about yourself and your upbringing and how you came into this health space?
Sure. So I will try and make a very long story short, but it kind of all started with gut health issues for me. I've had gut health issues since really for as long as I can remember. I remember being a very, very small child and always having really painful stomach aches. My mom took me to the doctor, and the doctor put me on what I think is basically the brat diet, like bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. And he told her, just feed her anything that's white food. So white toast, white pasta. He even included dairy. I mean, looking back, I'm just appalled at that advice. The only thing that he was on to was that there was really no fiber in this diet. And that is something that I would find is a huge problem for me. So yeah, gut issues since I was a kid. When I was 10, I did a school report on animal abuse, and it was really horrible. And so I declared to my family that I was then a vegetarian. And I really did actually stay plant-based from 10 years old until probably my late 20s. I would go through experimenting with different variations of plant-based, sometimes including fish, dairy, eggs, other times totally vegan. And it was actually the vegan times that I had some of my worst gut issues. So, and then when I had my first baby, which was a very long time ago now, I started having thyroid issues. And I didn't know at the time they were thyroid issues. But one of the symptoms that I was experiencing was actually worsening gut issues. So I was totally dismissed by my doctor at the time and realized that I had to start doing my own research and figuring this all out for myself. And so I pretty much started with a paleo diet. I just went whole foods, but it was still very high in carb, did lots of spinach smoothies, and which I would also later find out was contributing to my gut issues. But then, and I was getting a little bit better, not better enough. And so I started removing carbs. That made me feel even better. But it just was never getting me to that point where I felt like, yeah, I'm healed. So I started hearing about carnivore and thought, this is absolutely insane. I don't know how anyone could just eat animal foods and be healthy. You have to have your fruits and vegetables. So, but I was desperate. I was having such horrible, debilitating, I guess, flare-ups of these problems, which were very much, the generic term IBS. So lots of pain, lots of quick trips to the bathroom. So I just decided, you know what, I'm going to do carnivore for 30 days. 30 days of anything is not going to kill me. So I'm just going to try it and see what all this talk is about. And I think that was about 7 years ago. So I did 30 days of strict carnivore, just animal products. I did include dairy, and I felt amazing. And I finished that 30 days with my gut feeling the best that it's felt probably in my entire life. It was pretty miraculous. But I started introducing foods back into my diet, and while some of them were okay, I had a pretty horrible run-in with with gluten that landed me in the hospital for several days with some really, really terrible symptoms. So after that, I was like, okay, I need to go back to, a really clean diet. Although I still wasn't completely sold on carnivore. So I went more to ketovore and hung out there, stayed there for quite a while, and I felt pretty good. But again, the gut issues were slowly coming back, or there was things that would trigger it, stressful situations, or certain foods that I would eat if I would indulge in something, splurge on something. It felt like it was just kind of throwing me right back to the beginning. So the beginning of this year, I thought, all right, I'm going to just buckle down again. We're going back to carnivore. And it felt really good, but this time it wasn't that same kind of miraculous experience that I had had when I did it for the first 30 days. So that is where I just started kind of almost panicking. I mean, it was really bad again. And I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, I'm not eating any plants. I'm eating these amazing nutrient dense animal foods, and I'm still having gut problems. So that's when I found the circadian and quantum biology. And once I incorporated those practices into my life, along with carnivore, mostly carnivore, I would say, I guess I was probably still ketovore, including spices, herbs, some onions, things like that. But marrying those two things together has been absolutely amazing. And I really haven't had gut issues since, unless I eat something totally offensive to my gut.
And how long
For the
ago was
most part. The beginning of this year is really when the beginning of last year is when I started again with the carnivore, ketovore, and brought in the circadian. I did, we can get into kind of circadian seasonal eating at some point. But so the beginning of last year, I went back to carnivore. I introduced all the circadian lifestyle strategies. But then in the summer, I did bring back in some carbohydrate, locally, seasonally grown carbohydrate. Went through the fall, ended up under eating, was not eating enough fat, even though I know better. And so I ended up gaining weight. And then this past January, went back to ketovore, added in more fats, and continued on with all of the circadian practices. And it's been really good.
Amazing. Okay, so I've heard of this circadian thing, and the first thing that goes into my mind is this some woo woo crazy? So I'd like to learn some more about it because I've heard that this can affect even our blood sugar, our insulin, our hormones. I've been told by many people, because I'm doing all this recording, people catch me online at midnight, that is contributing to the reason why my hormones are so off and my thyroid is so off. So could you tell us what this even is? Like,
Sure.
what do you even mean by that?
Oh, well, first of all, when I started hearing about it, I thought the same thing. Like, this is some woo stuff. Although I was desperate enough to try anything. But the more that I learned about it, I realized that this is very much rooted in science and biology. So basically, your circadian rhythm is your body's master clock, and that is influenced by our light environment, but also things like the food that we eat and the timing of our meals. So the light part of it, that's kind of the most important part of it. It really depends on the type of light that we're receiving. So in nature, we would be waking up with sunrise, and that sunrise signals to our body that, hey, it's time to be up for the day. And our circadian, our cortisol should be slowly rising. The sunrise light, the colors that are present during sunrise, sends a signal to our brain that tells cortisol basically that it's time to slowly start rising so that we have the energy to wake up and get going. The problem is that most of us now, we wake up with our phones as our alarm, and so the first thing that we see is that bright blue light of our cell phone, which is not the same as sunrise. So instead of this nice, gentle kind of chamomile tea version of our cortisol rising, we get a slap in the face and a double shot of espresso, and it's kind of a zing, and the cortisol spikes. So ideally, what we would want to do is wake up and have the first thing that we do be go outside with naked eyes, meaning no contact lenses, no glasses, no sunglasses, and just You don't have to look at the sun. This is not sun gazing, but you go outside, maybe look in the direction of where the sun is rising and just let that light into your eyes. If it's warm enough to let it touch your skin, that's amazing too. We have photoreceptors in our eyes and our skin. And then, you'd go inside and get yourself ready, have your breakfast, do whatever you do in the morning. And then if schedules allow, ideally you want to go back outside or open a window or poke your head out the door and start getting the UVA light. UVA starts to rise after sunrise. And that is another signal to our brain about what it's supposed to be doing at that exact time of day. So the UVA is signaling to our brain that, hey, it's time to start producing hormones and neurotransmitters. So things like our thyroid hormone and serotonin and pregnenolone are all, which all of our sex hormones are made from. So these things are triggered by exposing our eyes and our skin to UVA. Making serotonin during that UVA time is really, really important actually for our sleep that night, because serotonin will later be converted into pineal melatonin. So starting your day in the morning with sunlight is actually helping your hormones. It's helping regulate your metabolism, your appetite, your energy, your mood, and then it also helps with your sleep later that night. Then as we move through the day, UVB will rise, and getting out in UVB, most of us know that's like when we start making vitamin D. So when UVB touches our skin, our body's actually able to make its own vitamin D, which is super important for so many things, but especially our immune function, our bone health. So getting these light signals in the order in which they appear is very supportive to really our entire body. Later, once the sun has set, if you can get out for sunset, that's amazing too. It sends a signal to the brain that it's time to wind things down. We're getting ready for sleep. And then in the absence of light, in darkness, that's when these other processes will start to happen, where we start making pineal melatonin. And pineal melatonin helps us to sleep, but it's actually also involved in really important repair processes. I think a lot of people have probably heard of autophagy. It's something that we hear about when we talk about fasting. So autophagy needs melatonin. Apoptosis, the natural death of cells, that also needs melatonin. So in the morning, we are actually starting that process of making melatonin so that we can sleep and repair, and then wake up the next day and feel refreshed and rejuvenated. So it's just this amazing cycle of timing, and it really is dependent on the light and then the darkness that we're exposed to.
Could you
I hope
tell
that all
us?
made sense.
Yes, it does. Can you tell us what that has to do with eating timing?
So eating, it's what is referred to as a secondary Zeitgeber or timekeeper in the body. So if we are eating at regular times, it just helps the body to know what to expect. It helps the body to know what time it is. So if we are eating breakfast at the same time every day, if we're eating lunch at the same time every day, and then dinner at the same time every day, your body starts to get in a rhythm. It's kind of like if you watch animals. My dogs get fed every day at 2:00. At 1:45, they start coming over and staring at me like, hey lady, it's time. Their body just knows. And I think that's sort of like it's kind of a duh thing for most of us, but when you start understanding how the body works and how it perceives these meals, then it all kind of comes together and starts making sense. The other part of the food is that we're getting light signaling actually from our food. So our food is grown outside in the sun, whether it's a plant or an animal, and that light is encoded in our food. So that's the importance of eating locally and seasonally. When we eat foods that are grown under the same sun that we currently live under, we're giving our body correct signaling. It understands that, okay, this is the light that we're under right now, so we're also consuming this light energy. If we are, like, say for me, I live in the mountains. If I am in the mountains in the middle of winter where nothing really grows, there's no plant foods that grow naturally. It's snow, it's, there's not much that's available. And I am eating pineapple. I'm sending my body a signal that it's actually, I'm sending my body a signal from a completely different part of the planet. It was grown under different light conditions than what I am living in. So it's a circadian mismatch. I hope
Could you
I'm
tell us
explaining that in a
more?
way that makes sense.
Could you tell us? That does make sense to me. That makes a lot of sense that in nature we would only be eating the things that are here, and so it would have a little bit more harmony with our energy, with our body, with our hormones. So can you tell us about grounding? Is that part of this too?
It is part of it. And grounding is definitely something that I thought, whoa, this is really woo woo. I'm thinking of like, tree hugging hippies. But grounding basically is a way of our body, well, geolocating is one of it. Grounding actually tells our body where we are on the planet. But the other part of it is that we are gathering electrons. So we're gathering energy from the earth, which is kind of amazing. And to ground, you can be barefoot on the dirt, on grass, on sand, in water, but you can actually also just touch plants that are actually planted in the ground. So it could be a tree or flowers in your garden. And these things they're bringing energy into your body. And there's amazing studies that show the anti-inflammatory effects of grounding. I think it's something like people who spent 40 minutes a day grounding, and it didn't have to be all at one time, it could be divided up through the day, but they showed lower inflammation after that 40 minutes of grounding, which is pretty cool.
So we recently did some tent camping, and I was in this sleeping bag, and it felt like the synthetic material of the sleeping bag were suffocating me. Because I was hoping in sleeping outside that I would get that grounding energy, but it seemed like the sleeping bag was kind of interfering. Do you think that's a thing?
It does have to be bare skin to a natural surface. So if you have a tent or sleeping bag, it's going to prevent that from the grounding from really happening. But when you get out of the tent, you just put your hand on the ground, your foot on the ground, and it's instantaneous. So yeah, you're not getting it like during sleep if you're sleeping in a tent, but the second you're outside of it and you're touching something, then you're grounding.
I'm going to tell you something really weird. Okay, so I get body work done. It's a myofascial where they stretch out your fascia, and cranial, like I think they do, I guess there's different names for all of it, but they're basically pulling on different areas to stretch different parts out to make it so that not only your energy but your fluid can circulate from top to bottom. And as he's pulling on my toe, I
Yeah.
mean, you're barely even feeling it. I'll start feeling a buzzing in my ear, and so I know that this energy, I used to think this was completely woo woo, especially this work. I thought it was just crazy, but I could literally feel the energy and hear it moving when he opened it up. And so it got me thinking I must be really clogged up, and I am full of autoimmune illness and inflammation. And so I did start trying to put my feet in the ground more because I think we would be doing that. And I wish I could just sleep on the dirt because
I
can you
know.
imagine not only the charge, the energy exchange, but also maybe the biome of being in, how healthy it would be for our bacteria and
Oh
then
yeah.
just breathing that air too. So I may not have got the full charge of sleeping out in the tent, but we didn't put the tops on it. So I got all the air and all the light. And I thought, so
Yes.
this has got to be just so amazing. We message a lot, so I'm gonna guess you've heard of chronic inflammatory response syndrome.
Yes.
And these people who get sick and can't be inside of buildings will feel amazing in a tent. They will feel amazing to the point, even though this sounds crazy, they don't want to move back into buildings. And I totally
No,
get that.
it makes total sense. I mean, we really, when we're indoors, we're surrounded by EMFs. Like we've got our Wi-Fi and all of our electronics, and even just the electricity that's running through our walls. All of these things, and there are people who are very electromagnetic sensitive, and I would guess that people with SIRS probably are very, very sensitive. So I mean, yeah, even being in the tent, if you're not grounding, you are still, you're in nature. You're hearing all of those sounds of nature. You're not surrounded by all these EMFs. It's kind of like your body just gets this huge break, and it's awesome. I could
It's so
totally see. I
different.
would love, actually, my dream home would have like no electricity in the bedroom and quartz glass windows so that all of the natural light can come in, the full spectrum of light. I have like all these big, very expensive dreams for my dream home.
I'll move in with you. What would the floor be made out of?
I don't, well, so the thing is, like, I mean, there's got to be someone who could probably create some kind of
Something
grounded
kind of
floor, but
nice or
if
safe.
it's not a natural surface, or if it's not living, like if we have wood floors, that's not conductive. But yeah, I wouldn't know about all of that, but I
Worried
bet you
about
there's a
that.
way.
So another reason that I know that this is a real thing and not just woo woo, and I need to continue to investigate, is I spend my summers outside walking with my kids. We walk every single day in as much sun as we can, and it's the best feeling of the year, is just that being outside. And there's also one of our favorite places is Trilingua, Texas. There, it's a ghost town, so there's no light pollution, there's no electricity. People are using solar panels because it's a ghost town, there's no city or anything. And you feel so amazing, and there's got to be a reason.
Oh yeah, I think so.
Okay, so I recently heard that part of the reason this problem is magnifying is because we have even switched our light bulbs. I heard, and maybe you could give us more information on this, that incandescent light bulbs weren't as harmful to us as these LEDs that we're using that are just so bright. Is that
Right.
true?
It is true. The incandescent lights are probably, I mean, in my opinion, they're the healthiest choice for a light bulb. Unfortunately for us in California, that is becoming very, very difficult. I have a friend who lives just over the state line in Nevada, and I was like, hey, can I ship some light bulbs to you? And then can you drive them over to me? It felt so like, but
It's like the
the
raw
incandescent bulbs, they have the infrared. So, you feel the heat. That makes them less energy efficient, but you're getting closer to a full spectrum of light. So infrared is not visible light, but it's definitely a light that our body still perceives and is very healing and amazing. When we switch to the LED, most LEDs are very, very high in blue light. They don't contain the full spectrum of light. They don't contain the infrared. And then the other problem with LEDs is that most of them have a strong flicker. So it's not something that the naked eye can perceive, but your nervous system perceives it. And actually, a really easy test is to just take your cell phone and record in slow-mo an LED light, and then you'll see the flicker. So we're not seeing it, but we're feeling it. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I actually, I don't see it, but I feel it instantly. Like my daughter, when she's playing volleyball and it's inside the gym and there's all these LED lights, I feel like I can't even focus. Like my eyes won't focus. I get a headache. She gets a headache. And I know it's that flicker, and it's so tough. So even if I wear my blue blockers in there, it doesn't really help with the headache and that kind of weird, almost nervous feeling. And I don't think that everyone's that sensitive. I know lots of people can go in and be under that light and they don't necessarily feel it in that way, but I do think that it is affecting our nervous system, even if you're not necessarily feeling it the way that I feel it. There are some LED alternatives, though. There are some really great companies that are making blue light free and very low or flicker free LEDs. So I do have some of those in our house. And that's, it's a nice option to have if you're in a state like mine that makes it really difficult to buy incandescent.
Do you know the brand of the company that there's like a light bulb and it looks like a corn cob? And it's supposed to be able to give you the different rays throughout the day. Of course, it's a million bajillion dollars, but I've
Right.
heard that there is this light bulb. You haven't heard of it?
I haven't heard of that one, and I don't know enough about that kind of technology, but someone who really does is Carrie Bennett. She has some really amazing information on all of that light and the new technology. And yeah, she's somebody that I would definitely look into if you're looking for more information and understanding on the light and the light bulbs.
So my next question is, oh wait, let's go into, well, here's something that's interesting. Sorry, my brain just went three different places. When we first got these LED lights, I was like, oh, I love it. I love how beautiful it is. It was almost like a sugar addiction of like, ooh, I like that a lot. But
Yeah.
now I'm seeing like why it's so disruptive.
Right. And there's something about once you know,
Yeah.
it changes everything. I always had a problem with the really, really bright white LED. So there's a lot more actually blue light in those bright whites. And so I was always searching for ones that were kind of more yellow, that just had warmer tones to them, because I think even before learning about this stuff, something didn't feel right to me being under the really bright white light. I'm a
So,
poet.
you know how our phones auto dim? Does that help at all?
Unfortunately, it doesn't. I mean, it takes away some of the brightness, obviously, but it doesn't really reduce the blue light. And so, like on the iPhone, there's the night shift, and that takes some of the blue light out, but it doesn't really take enough of the blue light out at night. So there are ways to turn your screen completely red, which quite honestly makes it not very fun to look at. So it's kind of it's kind of a good thing for two different reasons. One is you're not sitting staring at the phone before going to bed, and then two, not getting that intense blue light. But yeah,
I've
there's some little
seen that.
tricks.
Is that a setting in the iPhone or is that an app we have to download?
No, in the iPhone, there is a way to go into settings. There's a shortcut that you can create. So you can actually just click the phone or the power button 3 times and it'll turn it red. But there, you can also just go in manually. And so you can adjust, like, I don't keep mine completely red the entire day, but I do keep it some degree of orange. So actually, when I'm going to do an Instagram post, I have to go back through and take all that out because I'm like, I don't know what color everything is. But yeah, so there's different ways that you can do it. And then for people who work on a computer, there is actually software that you can use that will help filter out some of the blue light.
I did notice since I started podcasting that I am waking up at midnight and I wasn't before. And I'm doing these interviews, sometimes 8 o'clock at night. I turn the light on, which I don't have on right now. But so, do the blue blockers really help? Do you wear them? And when should we be wearing them? Do we need to wear them all day or?
It depends. So first, yes, the blue blockers are amazing. That made I was a night owl my entire life. For as long as I can remember, I have not wanted to go to sleep early. So, when I was old enough to not make my own bedtime, I was going to sleep after 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. And that really lasted until last year when I found all this circadian stuff. But the blue blockers absolutely help. After sunset, I put on the orange tone blue blockers, so that blocks pretty much all of the blue and most of the green light. And then if somebody has trouble falling asleep, you can actually put red lenses on about 30 minutes before you want to go to bed. And that blocks all the blue, all the green, and it really does help your body start to make melatonin, and most people will start to feel pretty sleepy. During the day, I guess it depends on what your situation is. If you are somebody that has to work on a computer or be on a screen all day, like I said, there's the software that you can use to filter out the blue light, or you can use blue blocking glasses. In that situation, I would use the yellow lenses. So that does allow some blue light. We don't want to necessarily be completely blue light free all day long, because the blue light is what tells our brain what time it is. So we don't want to be overdoing it, but we also don't want to completely block it out. It's there for a reason. When you can get it from natural sunlight, that's the most ideal. But we live in the modern world and it is what it is. So using the yellow toned during the day, or using some kind of software to filter out some of the blue light, is useful. The other time that I would wear the orange tone blue blocking glasses would be, like in the winter when the sun is rising really late and having to get up to do whatever work or take kids to school or whatever it is. If you're waking up before the sunrise, then if possible, it's ideal to put those orange lens glasses on. And then once the sun rises, you go out, take them off, and get that sun in your eyes.
I've bought some that are clear. Does that mean they're not blocking anything?
The clear ones, they do block a certain amount, but it's generally not enough. So there's a brand that I love, and they make a yellow blue blocking lens that actually to me, it almost feels like the clear lenses, but it is very, very effective. It's much more effective than doing the clear lenses. So yeah, there's some great companies out there that are making some really high quality glasses. Some are expensive, but you can also find really great quality ones that are less expensive. But I think they're definitely worth the investment.
Is there one that you would suggest, a company that you would suggest?
My favorite is Viva Rays. So they make an amazing product, and they're also just a really, really cool company. Like the founder, he's incredible. He actually taught one of the classes that I took through the Institute of Applied Quantum Biology. But even their customer service is amazing. Like I kind of got to be friends with the customer service manager. I had an issue with one of the glasses. There was like a defect, and so we were going back and forth, and I was like, wow, you're so nice, and we just kept in touch. So
That's how I feel with Keto Chow. I just love the owners. I love everybody that works for them. They're just wonderful.
It's awesome when you find companies like that. When I find companies like that, I'm like, I want to support you 100% because you're just great people.
Yes, yes.
And
that
make a great product.
I believe in your product more because I know that you care.
Right, exactly.
Okay, so a big one. This is the big one. Winter. So I was told that we could get some of this from a tanning bed, but then when I talk to quantum people, they go, "Oh gosh, no, please no." What are we supposed to do in the winter?
In the winter, so this is kind of the really amazing and cool thing about natural light is that you get all of the benefit of the light no matter what the weather is. If it is raining, sleeting, snowing, you still get those benefits. Even if you go outside and there's a building blocking you or trees or clouds, whatever it is, like you still get all of the benefits of that natural light. Your brain still perceives that light. So yeah, winter, it might be cold and kind of miserable to be out there. But I still do it. I go out if it's snowing. I mean, I'll be bundled up and I certainly don't spend as much time, but I still get out for sunrise. I get out for the UVA and UVB, depending on where you live. Where I live, we lose UVB for a few months. I think it's November to the middle of January. But I still just get outside as much as I can. And the tanning beds, I don't know enough about. I would say it's not ideal just because you're not getting full spectrum light, but I think it makes some people just feel really good in the winter.
Well, the thing is, the reason I wonder about the tanning beds, and then there's a Sperti, SPERTI, vitamin D lamp. So the reason I wonder is because our vitamin D levels do tank, and it's in Minnesota. I'm up here in Minnesota. Our days are super, super short, super short. So I just wonder, how do we make up for that? Because I think, if I think primally, we wouldn't be living here. Very few people would live in Minnesota, period. It's awful here.
Yeah.
It's too short. It's just
I
too
see your
cold.
videos with all the rain at like all
Yes,
times
it
of
rains.
year.
I live on Lake Superior. It rains every day and it's cold and the days are short and the snow goes up past our head. And I think people would live closer to the equator if we didn't have modern homes and electricity and heat. And so they would be receiving more of this light.
It would definitely be a rough life without all of our modern conveniences. But I think ideally you want to try to optimize your vitamin D during the summer. So getting out, building a solar callus. So that's building your kind of built-in safety. So building a solar callus involves seeing the sunrise, getting UVA, and then slowly, and depending on your skin type, but slowly exposing yourself to UVB when UVB is present from spring through the summer and then part of the fall. Of course, if you live at the equator, you have UVB pretty much all year round, so that's not an issue. But as long as somebody is building this solar callus and practicing safe sun exposure, so doing it very gradually, then in an ideal situation, you would be optimizing your vitamin D stores during the summer, and it should take you through the winter. I have also heard talk about, the winter and the cold and it being dark, that's kind of more of a time for melatonin. So I don't know enough about it to really talk about that. But that makes sense to me that we would be optimizing our melatonin in the season where it's darker, longer, and we're inside, where it's colder, so we're inside and kind of staying bundled and sleeping more. And
I could see how this issue is magnifying because just even a generation ago, people were working outside a lot more, and now people are working on computers instead of building something. My grandma grew all the fruits and vegetables in her yard for our whole family. So she spent the entire summer outside, and then she would trap rabbits and hunt deer. There was a lot more hunting, and
awesome.
people in the generation just before us were outside so much more than us. And then
Right.
we have watched the skin cancer go up, and so we've been told that the skin cancer is from the sun, and that we should just be so afraid of the light. And I just think of like those people in Arizona that you see like their skin looks like leather, and that's what we think of. The truth is, I've spent more time outside in the last year and a half since going carnivore, and my skin has never been better. My wrinkles are going away. I'm kind of glowing. It is
It's,
crazy.
yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, for me, not even going into studies or anything like that, but for me, just sort of the common sense. I'm sorry if you can hear my pugs snorting and growling in the background. The common sense part to me is that humans have always lived under the sun. And of course, we need to be practical about it. We don't want to be spending necessarily 8 hours a day in direct sunlight. That's probably going to not be the best for everybody. But it just doesn't make sense to me that we should avoid this thing that we need. Like, we need sun to make vitamin D. Our bodies are meant to have exposure to sunlight. So being afraid of it, just especially after learning all of this, it just doesn't make sense to me. But we have to be smart about it.
Yeah, we don't like, obviously, if you're getting sunburnt, then you've overexposed, you don't have the callus. And I do think that they would have people in previous generations would cover up, or maybe
Yeah.
avoid the middle of the day, do other things in the middle of the day, or just be out there for a little bit and then seek shade.
Right. Exactly. And that's the thing. That's what I do now. Like, I rarely wear sunblock. I mean, it has to be a really extreme situation. And gosh, I can't even think. The last time I probably wore sunblock was in when I was doing a race, an ultra. So I was going to be out there for the entire day. And yeah, I can put hats on and things, but one of the races that I used to do is in Arizona, and even with hats on and everything, you're so hot, and you've also got the light reflecting up off of the ground. So that is a situation where I would wear sunblock. But for the most part, I don't wear sunblock. I use hats if I've been out too long and I've had enough. Usually you can tell you've had enough either by just the way that you feel. You'll know. You're kind of like, all right, I'm done. I've had it. But even when you're starting to build that solar callus and gradually expose yourself, you can tell by the pinkening of your skin. It's not to the point of burning, but where you kind of see that pink modeling of the skin, then all right, I've had enough for today. So yeah, covering up and going into shade, that's just a smart way to get it. And then once you're in the shade, you're still actually getting the benefit from the natural light, even if you're not being directly exposed to it.
So, do you have a sunblock that you suggest? Because I've tried like the mineral, and let's say we go to the on a cruise, and that light down in the Caribbean is just so strong that everybody was getting sunburnt. And we tried the mineral sunscreen, and it didn't work. But the chemical sunscreen gives us rashes. Is there
Right.
another alternative? Is there something we're missing? Does tallow help?
I have heard that tallow can help. I mean, I'm not sure that it's going to really prevent a burn if you're out for a long time. I personally use Beauty Counter, and I like it just, again, because the only times that I really use it is if I'm doing a really long run and they have a little stick that I can just stick in my pocket. There's probably, I mean, I think that's a pretty clean company from what I know of them. I think there's probably even cleaner sunblock options. There's one, I think the company is called Clearwater Cultures, but I have not tried their sunblock. But that's one that I've heard about that seems to be a really clean and reputable brand. And then there's the issue of like, some of the clean ones make you really white. Your skin's all white, and I don't know.
We usually, for the kids, we have the big, huge hats that cover everything up here, and then we've got those breathable shirts and shorts. So they're mostly covered, and then we
Yeah.
watch how long they are in the heat of the day.
Right.
What we're
Yeah,
doing.
because that's the morning sun. I mean, for most people, there's really nothing. I don't think that there's really anything to worry about. It's not intense enough when you're out for sunrise, and then for the UVA. It's UVB where that's where you're probably going to start burning. It's that midday, really, really intense sun. So I think if they're out in the morning and they're just hanging out, but then they want to stay out in the afternoon, then yeah, you put on those clothes, cover them up, the hats, and
Okay, so my last one's kind of a funny one. So, okay, first of all, I want to bring up the thing of, it's funny that we are so afraid of the sun when you watch animals. The snakes come out
right.
and lay in the sun. Our puppy dogs will sit out and lay in the sun and just absorb it, take a nap. You watch all the
Yep.
animals just absorb it, and the flowers will move and trees to find the sun. And
Right.
here we are afraid of it. And I just think it's funny that our population has gotten, I'm totally guilty of this. I'm not making fun of anybody, of being to the point where we need a study to tell us something,
I,
to do something so simple. So now, ever since going carnivore, I just think to myself, what would my ancestors do? And
yeah.
I'm part native and I'm part Finnish. What would they be doing? And then that's just what the answer is.
Yeah.
Then it just seems easy. And then also, how do I feel? It's crazy. You just feel amazing if you get for a walk in the woods in the sun, every day, and you just breathe some fresh air, because the air inside, this is another problem that's magnifying, is that we added water to our buildings and we started making them out of weird material that's
Yeah.
not natural, and then we're just breathing that same air. And yeah, okay, so my
Exactly.
last thing is, I've heard, I don't know if this is part of your program, but like if something isn't feeling very well, to expose it to the sun. So for example, if you have a never-ending yeast infection, you should expose it to the sun.
Yeah.
If you're having testosterone problems, you should expose it to the sun. Is there something to this?
There is, and you've probably seen them too. I've seen some pretty funny videos of people, spreading over the sun. I mean, not showing anything, but
Right. Right.
yeah, it's very healing. I think especially that infrared light, and people will do it not only just in natural sunlight, which I think is by far the best, but even red light therapy panels. So people will have their red light therapy panel, and which is admittedly easier to expose certain areas than maybe going in your backyard. I certainly would not be able to do that without scaring the heck out of my neighbors and embarrassing myself. But the red light and the infrared light can be very, very healing.
And now it makes sense too, because I didn't realize that we had photoreceptors in our skin as well.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. And so I just assumed it was the sun killing it off. I don't know. Or
No, yeah, it's pretty amazing that we get those signals through our skin and through our eyes. There's some talk about people who've had LASIK. I actually had LASIK, and whether or not that disrupts the signaling that's coming through your eyes. And I honestly, I don't know. I'm
that's interesting.
it sounds, I've heard different opinions, but ultimately you still get that signaling through your skin. It's not as strong as through your eyes, but as long as you're exposing your skin and your eyes, I mean, you're getting benefit. So
That brings me to another one too. People don't realize that almost all our glass, they're putting UV protection in it. So
yeah.
it's not quite enough to just, but it's something to keep your curtains open, right? That's something.
You get the brightness of it, but it is, when it's blocking the UV, it's also blocking some of that signaling, so your body doesn't know. Kind of like wearing sunglasses, your body doesn't really fully understand what it's being exposed to. So, for example, when you put sunglasses on, your body's thinking like, oh, well, there's no UV present. So why do I need to do anything to protect myself? And so people have found that they'll sunburn more quickly, easier if they're wearing sunglasses out in the sunshine. So, and that really ruffles feathers. People get very upset about
That is
that.
such a bummer because sunglasses have a really big cool factor.
I know. It's like face jewelry. They're very cool looking, but
Yeah.
yeah, since learning all of this, I don't wear sunglasses unless it's an extreme situation. If it is, a sunny, snowy day and I'm out there, then I'll put sunglasses on. If I'm not usually on water, but if I'm near water and it's really sunny, that reflection, I'll put sunglasses on. But that's pretty much it.
So in the winter, would it help to have, so two things. I don't know if these are the same things. The infrared saunas and the red light therapy, the red lights. Would those two things, do infrared saunas help at all with this, or is that a totally different type of
Oh,
energy?
no, I think there's great benefit to infrared sauna, the heat and then also the infrared. So just finding one that's from a really reputable company, because I have heard, that there can be issues with EMFs in the sauna. So it's kind of a bummer because it's like, okay, I'm going in, I'm doing this thing that's really healthy, but then exposing yourself to EMFs. So I don't have a meter, and I don't have a sauna, but I think that if somebody really wants to get into it, I would just contact different companies and ask them. I'm sure they probably, most of the good ones will have some kind of information they can provide.
I've heard the Relax brand is a good one and that it's very powerful without the EMF. And I think Dr. Lisa Wiedemann has a discount code for that. So I have to go over there and get one. But they
Sarah
sell,
Kleiner also talks
does she
about
as well?
hers. Yeah, and I can't remember which one it is. Carrie Bennett also has information. I think on her website they have both Carrie Bennett and Sarah Kleiner. They have product recommendation pages. So and they both have sauna recommendations on there. And I would absolutely trust either one of them.
Because I heard a good one, it'll get all the way into an intercellular level
Yes.
and help you detox things
Right.
out by the energy hitting the cell at a deep level.
Yes.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool. Infrared can penetrate deep into the body.
So you are a coach. So if anybody wanted help with this, they could reach out to you. Or what kind of things do you coach people on? Do you coach them on nutrition and running and what kinds of things?
I don't do as much running anymore. I mean, I certainly can. I have 10 years of experience coaching mostly trail ultra runners. But it's just not something that I focus on anymore, at least not right now. So I'm usually working with people on gut health, on these foundational strategies for supporting hormones and losing weight. And so that's really bringing in carnivore, ketovore, working with someone wherever they're at. I mean, I have a client right now and she's extremely high carb, and that's fine. Like, we're doing a very slow step down approach for her and just finding what her personal carb threshold is. And so yeah, I work with nutrition, and I really encourage people to be as animal food based as they possibly can. And then I always include some kind of circadian protocol for everybody, unless they're just completely not into it. And I'm not going to argue with anyone. I will, help them with whatever I can. But I strongly encourage people to be open-minded to it, because it's just so supportive to the body. And then everything that we do on top of that, on top of building a strong circadian rhythm, all of those things just work so much better. So far, most of my clients have been really receptive and open to it. Some of them come to me already knowing, some things about circadian rhythm. Some of them are like, whoa, what is this? But it's been really positive so far. So, yeah.
Well, I would totally work with you. We've been messaging for, I don't even know, it feels like a year. I feel like you found me before anybody
I
even found me. And I just love the back and forth. You're such a, you're so my person. Um,
Oh, that is how I feel about you. And I saw that post with you and Karen, and you guys had mouth tape on and your blue blocking glasses on. And I was like, and with sardines. You guys are eating sardines, blue
yes,
blocking, and mouth taping. I was like, these are my people.
yes, I know. So if anybody wants to find you are Health Coach MAIS on Instagram. Did I do
Yes.
that right?
Yes, it's
And what
Health
is
Coach
that?
Mize. So Mize is just a nickname that my childhood best friend gave me, and it's just sort of it's been a fun thing to have as my Instagram handle. So that's where
Awesome.
that comes from. But yeah, I'm mainly on Instagram, so that's the best way to find me.
Well, for sure, everybody go out, like, and subscribe to her, follow her. It's wonderful. I love all the stuff you post. And thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
your time and for coming on today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It was so fun to talk.
Well, everyone, thank you for watching today. Please like, subscribe, and share. Bye.